upon like meeting him and his family and just seeing how like his parents been married 40 years.
Wow.
You know, they're on vacation right now, 40 years celebrating. And so them like seeing that example, it influenced our relationship, in my opinion, at least for me, because I didn't see that. So it had a heavy influence on what marriage could be like.
What's up, Blueprint family? How y'all doing out there? Thank you all for joining us. And so today for this episode, we have a married couple. So we want to provide some great information about marriage benefits today. And then also to contrary, to a lot of the videos that you probably watched and seen so far dealing with people who are single. So we want to go ahead and show you the benefits and also the insights of what marriage looks like today, so that, help to defeat those horrible divorce statistics that are going on in our society today. So we want you all to meet our guests. So you can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
What's going on, people? I'm Jamar Daniels. I am a father, a husband, avid fisherman, dancer sometimes, appreciator of art. What else can I say? A son, a brother, an uncle, all those things. And my lovely wife.
Hi, I'm Shakima. I am Jamar's wife of almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And yes, a decade. Yes, we are parents, and he is a comedian, and yes, I am his number one fan.
Yes.
Beautiful. That is so nice. So y'all have been together for 10 years total, or
No,
the whole journey?
Just married for 10 years.
Nice.
We've been together, I would say, about 14.
Nice.
Yeah, it's 2024.
Facts.
That's,
14.
About 14.
That is beautiful.
Yes.
That is beautiful. We have been only married for 8 years legally, when you bring in the legal.
Yeah.
8 years.
Yes.
Been together for 11 total. So that is always nice to see couples actually out here that really do make it, because they do exist and are happily. You all seem very happily married, so that's exciting.
Yeah. So well, of course, we have some interview questions that we wanted to ask you all so that our viewers can get a better understanding of how marriage is today and how it is thriving and it can exist and work in the society today. So what are some unexpected positive benefits you've experienced from getting married that you wouldn't have had if you were single?
Unexpected positives. I would say the number one thing that I think of is, I think when people think about support, they think about like, my mom, my dad, or, whoever your guardians were when you were growing up. But I think when you can know someone like 100% and like know, not the person you see when they like come out the house or, when you're at work, but like 100% vulnerable, and then have somebody who can support you regardless, like unconditionally. That is, I think, has been the best benefit to being married. That otherwise, as a single person, I don't know if I would have that with anyone outside of like, God. But, I don't think, on a personal level, I don't think I would have that with anyone else.
Yeah.
I would say that my experience with marriage has definitely refined me. And I'm grateful to be able to have a partner that has challenged me, and also challenged me to like become a better communicator, become more accountable to myself, you know what I'm saying? And for my family, and really helping me like lead the way in my family. So that was, I don't want to say it was unexpected, but during those times that were uncomfortable, I realized that it was refinement and it was growth. And, here we are now able to kind of like testify,
Now, I agree with you, Jamar. That was one of the things that the refinement piece of marriage is something that I didn't expect. And then thinking that you were already refined and finished, there's more work that your wife basically let you know that, hey, it would be nice if, And I'm like, wow, all right, here we go. I thought that I was already well put together, but, more so, I think I know that marriage has basically made me a better man.
Yeah.
I would not have been a better man without my wife today. I can testify to that, and I can definitely appreciate that answer that you.
I love that, man. Yes. Depending on the partner, I would say, man, we're supposed to build each other up, and we're supposed to facilitate our improvement and our betterment of each other. Like you said, as cliche as people may think it is, if you're in a place to accept correction, it does allow you to become a better person, I would say.
Yeah, and statistically, they've shown that when a man gets married and takes on a family, he improves within the workforce. He becomes a harder worker. He goes out, he gets more, he goes and tries to get more promotions and, try to take care of your family better.
Yeah,
So all around
hit
better.
the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to take that job at first.
Well, oh yeah, that job, you didn't want to take that job because of just lack of insight and awareness, and then kind of sitting down and breaking down the numbers.
I did a list. I was like,
the
look,
pros
this is
and the
what.
cons. I needed that because I didn't necessarily have that insight, and I'm glad that we made that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you provided a support. Like you were saying, that support to make him feel comfortable, like, wow, she's here for me and she's encouraging me to go out here. And I know that maybe even if I do fail, like she'll be here for that too.
Absolutely.
And I think that helps with the safety net of having a good support around. So you're willing to go out and take those risks,
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yep, and a good wife always inspires a husband.
Yeah.
So that's something that's a perfect example of that, and that's something that we preach on our show. And that men draw strength from their wives. Yeah. And that inspiration would definitely push you forward to be a better provider, protector in life.
And one thing I did want to note for the single ladies, that's important to be aware of, that your man isn't going to be 100% exactly how you want him when you first get him.
No such
There
thing.
is there is a level of, like they said, refinement that comes along.
Definitely.
And you got to be open to that too. Yeah.
So I guess the next question. So what are some common misconceptions about marriage that you encountered before getting married? And then have they proven true or false in this modern world?
Misconceptions.
Maybe like stigmas.
Oh man, I mean, certain cultures will have you think that marriage is the old ball and chain, and you're no longer able to live your life. You always hear that this one stigma is, oh well, happy wife, happy life, and you're gonna do whatever she says. But I heard from somebody, it was like, no, it's more about happy spouse, happy house. And so I think stigmas teach you to like lose your identity, you know what I'm saying, as who you are. And in my opinion, that was just, you could fall into that rhetoric, but I think you got to kind of dig deeper and like look within and look outside. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
Babe?
No, so I was just going to say the one that people constantly say is that you don't have sex anymore. That's not true.
That's a lot.
Right.
But that's something that people constantly, like you constantly hear it. And I think it's a conversation, like, let's just be honest, married people have sex. Like they do. And you can have it. Obviously if you have kids, things happen. However, it's just not true. It doesn't have to be true.
Right.
It doesn't have to be true, right?
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh man, as soon as you get married, they change.
that's it.
Everything changes. Again."
Yeah, the only thing that changed was my last name and refinement. And
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
Well, I mean, speaking on, I want to move down to the parenthood question. So, you all have a son.
Yes.
Yeah. So how has parenthood impacted your marriage?
Ooh,
Oh my gosh, that's a very good question.
that's a very timely question.
Very
as well,
timely.
that I would say we're in our season of preteen, young preteen male, just starting to test his limits, test his boundaries, and so this is currently our life, and so it's been, I would say, overall, it's been great being parents. One, because not to tradition, but we had our son before we got married. So our son's 11. We've been married 10 years. And he has really pushed us because we were happy where we were living. We were happy, living in our apartment downtown, and we weren't thinking about schools. We weren't thinking about any of that stuff. And then, we realized we had to make some changes, not just for him, but for the life that we were trying to create for ourselves. So being a parent really, I think, put things into perspective for us. Like, where do we want to raise a family? What do we want our home to be like? What kind of dad do you want to be? What kind of mom, do I want to be? What things do we want to take from our childhoods, and what things do we want to leave? And I think right now, with him being in this, where hormones and all those things, trying to meet him where he is, but also hold him accountable. And also, the one thing that he and we talked about this, I think, before he was even born, we would say he is going to leave one day.
Yeah.
So we cannot be so wrapped up in him that we forget why we're in this. Because one day he's gonna be like, all right, y'all, well, I'm going to college, or I'm moving, and then we're gonna be like, well, it's been great being, your wife and being his mom, but since he's leaving, then there's nothing left for me here. We don't want to be those people.
Right.
We want to be like, oh, you're leaving. It's great. We love you. Woo, he's leaving. It's us now.
It's time for us for this new phase in our life.
Exactly. And so I think we've been very intentional about making sure that even he knows, we are a unit. You are an addition, but it's not you and I and then dad. It's me and dad, then you.
Yeah.
And, he knows that. So you can't play us against one another.
Right.
We let him know all the time, you're just here for a little bit.
So I'll say all of this school of thought has been facilitated through conversation.
Absolutely.
It's been facilitated through communication. And whenever, a challenge is it comes in our relationship when it comes to our child, we have to stop and we're going to say, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this? What are your thoughts on this? What's your approach on this? How are we going to handle this? How do you think we should handle this? And it's a great deal of just talking it through and being able to kind of execute with our plan and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. That hits on a funny thing I heard this week. People were talking about, who do you pick, your spouse or your child? Who comes first, your spouse or your child? And I was like, why is this even a question?
Yeah.
What is going on right now?
Yeah.
Who came first? It comes down to
Right.
that. Who came first?
And he's going to, he's already talking about, he asked me today, when I move out, are you going to sell the house? And I was like, why? He was like, well, I think I might want to buy it. And I was like, it's a great conversation. We can talk about it. But because I think he's aware I'm leaving and they're, I'm going to go.
Right.
And I'm happy that he's aware of that at such a young age, because he goes out and, meets a woman and, they do whatever they do, start their own family. I'm the same respect that, our parents gave us. I'm going to give you that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Eventually he's no longer our child. He's going to be our person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he'll be making his own decisions and living his own life. And that time will be coming.
Yeah.
It is coming.
Got you. So I do want to ask this question next. So how do you typically approach a disagreement or conflict in your marriage? And what strategies have worked well for you?
Ooh.
I feel like we've done it differently. There have been times where Jamar, he used to write letters. And I still have some of them. They're like all yellow and stuff now. He used to write a letter. Sometimes it's through text message, especially if it's in the morning and people are trying to get out the way and you got to go to work, got to get to school. If it's something that you need, I think if it's a conversation where you feel like this is something that we're gonna have to talk through, it's gonna take a while. We the platform Marco Polo. I don't know if you heard of it, but you can send a video, but like a talking video. It's actually how I communicate with my dad, because he lives away, and so he'll send me videos when he's walking to work and stuff like that. But Jamar or I will send a Marco Polo, and it's this is my time to tell you how I feel. It's uninterrupted. I can get everything out, and then from there he can watch it or I can watch it, and then you can really receive okay, all right, I think sometimes you said you would take notes, okay, all right, this is where, okay, I need to work on this, work on that. And then we would that evening, oh, I saw your video. Okay, all right, now I see what you were saying, or I didn't quite understand what you were saying. And then you get that time to talk it through. So that's one way, or multiple ways, I'd say, because I mentioned a few. What do you
Well, I'll say this: learning the art of timing is really key, and using these tools and platforms that we have now, whether it's through writing or it's through like Marco Polo, where it's uninterrupted video, because when you have conflict, which I think is necessary at times,
and it's gonna happen,
you are tasked to be very reactive, and it's sometimes difficult to hear what the partner's saying because you feel so passionate about what you have to say, and then that's when you guys start talking over each other, and
nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening, and then it becomes an argument. So like timing, and also depending on the severity of the conflict, location, whether it's in a neutral space or y'all can go outside for a walk or going somewhere. I've realized like when we've had like some of those harder conversations and we've had them in neutral spaces, it kind of like drops guards, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like going for a walk, you're just like, all right, like, we're not sitting in the bedroom with the door shut, trying not to be too loud, just
exactly.
Let's go for a walk. And let's like location, timing and location. And I think to piggyback on the timing, that was like one of our biggest hangups. Like, I don't want to talk about this at 7:30 a.m. I'm about to go to work. Like, I don't want to start my day like this.
Yeah,
and that was where we started using the Marco Polo, because like, you know what? Send me what your thoughts are on my lunch break. I'm going to watch it and then I'll respond, and then we can debrief at the end of the day when we're home. Because by the end of the day, we're not holding on to the feelings that I at 7 a.m. I don't feel that way anymore. I'm more now like, okay, we got to figure this out, because who wants to go through this all day long, a disagreement, or I don't want to take that energy with me into the next day, let's wrap this up. So timing was something I think we definitely talked about a lot. Like, this is not the right time. Let's do this later, or let's do this, once we've been able to hear one another.
I say the last thing that I would say, the last tool would be the ability to communicate endurance. Shout out to Pastor Vernon Gordon at the Life Church in Richmond, where he had this sermon called Matters of the Heart. And it was just talking about how we can be so easily offended. But when you're in a conflict with somebody, I think sometimes the last thing you expect them to do is communicate that I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in it to win it. Regardless, this is an argument, but I want to let you know that my intention is for us to get through this.
Right.
And sometimes we forget it and we see each other as enemy, and we want to be right. One wants to be right, one wants to be wrong. But I think when you communicate your intention and your endurance to say, look, regardless of this, we're still going to work this out. And that's my, I'm here to endure this. I think it's definitely been a tool for me,
Yeah.
Right.
I like that. I think about you a lot. That's one thing that I love, because we're very different in communication aspects, because I'm more of I need that time. I don't want to talk when I'm upset.
Same.
I want to back up.
Yeah.
He's like, let's tackle this right now. Let's talk about it right now.
Girl.
Like 35 minutes.
Right.
Because I'm not going to speak the way I need to speak. And so
Exactly.
give me some time.
But why are you being so cold, girl? Look at me.
That's it. That's so true. But the added aspect of, like you said, him just saying, well, I'm here.
Right.
Like, I want to work this out. I want to talk about it. I'm here. Like, let's come here. And even when I'm so like, no, just hearing him say, I'm here, softens you up a bit.
Yes,
and
it's
you're like,
reassuring,
okay.
100%. Because you're like, okay, this argument isn't the end. It's like, why would you think it's the end? Well, because that's why I can't talk when I'm during these times, because I'm not thinking rationally.
Right.
I had to learn how to let go of my ego, right? Because ego was in the way, and ego will tell you, like, you don't need this. You don't need to go through this. Like, how dare she say A, B, and C? Like, what? You don't, my ego be in my head, and I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah. And then I listened to it, and then I'm like, damn, I'm back in square one. Like, why did I listen? But you got to learn how to dissolve your ego. You know what I'm saying? And don't let that ego tell you, oh, you a simp, yo. Why are you still like chasing? You ain't say nothing to you. You don't need to say nothing back. I'm like, bro, let me be the peace, bro. I can be the peacekeeper, and I have to continue to lead, and I got my hand on the thermostat. So let me cool things down.
Yeah. I think it's a way to utilize your strength because what you relate to him in that aspect, because he's more of a, I want to talk about it now. It's saying stuff that is going to help the conversation than if you want to talk about it, not stuff that's, going to hurt it or, make things worse, that actually utilizes that difference as a strength to really help the relationship overall. Yeah.
And then also too, like at the end of the day, the commitment is the marriage. The commitment is to you all. And there is no seeing your way out of that. And that's something that I want a lot of our viewers to understand too as well, is that marriage is a commitment. And you have to, I love your illustration and strategy on how to resolve conflict. Because a lot of times people get stuck in conflict. And they like you said, argument becomes a competition. Yeah. And so that ultimately is something that you're trying to win. And you're winning it for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, absolutely. And then you forget the side of the marriage and the commitment that you all have for each other and the willingness to work together above any situation. So, that's beautiful. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So how do you keep communication open and honest? So even during those difficult times?
I would say one thing that we've implemented to relate back to timing is we're not going, if it's a difficult conversation or if it's going to cause conflict, don't talk about it before a certain time. Like if it's 8 a.m. on a Monday, save that, put it in your pocket, and maybe, shoot a message saying, hey, we really need to talk about XYZ. What time, do you have any free time in your schedule? Or is it a good time this evening? And from there, I think, because we know that conflict is going to come. It's not, that's like, we'd be lying if we say, oh, we never argue. Like, that's not true. We never have disagreement. It's not true. And sometimes we're in a position where we know, like, oh, something happened with our kid. We got to figure this out. I know he's not going to agree with how I want to do it. So we're going to have to plan to talk about it. So let's not do it in the morning. Let's do it at a time that makes sense for everyone. I think that's the first thing that I can think of. It's just being wise about how to have disagreements.
I mean, we learn through experience. And in order to keep things open and honest, you also have to learn how to be accountable with yourself. And I think internally being accountable with myself also looks like me taking time to kind of reflect. Crazy enough, like I've been journaling more recently, and not only do I journal, I kind of go back so I can be reminded of maybe the mistakes that I made or the things that did work or didn't work. And then from there, just continuing to, like I said, communicate my endurance and also know and trust that, my partner, we're on the same side. You know what I mean? We're on the same team, different number, but we have the same jersey on. Right. And we just have to continue to reflect and be reminded of those times,
Right. And I think also knowing that my partner's not intentionally trying to hurt me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
My partner, even in disagreement, he's not intentionally trying to make things difficult. And so I think when you remind yourself of that, you become less guarded and you're better able to hear, but also hear what they have to say that might hold you accountable and you just don't want to hear it, but you've let that guard down, so you're better able to receive it because you've reassured yourself this is not coming from a place of harm. This is coming from a place he's trying to help. Right. And so let me be less guarded so I can receive what it is that he's trying to say.
And you know what? I'll say, Kiki, you do a good job in a lot of cases because like I say preface. She would preface something like, all right, so maybe sometimes I don't always lock doors. And that can really like annoy my partner. But I remember one time she was like, I love you. You know what I mean? The language right there. Hey, babe, I love you, right? But you got to lock these doors. You know what I'm saying? Like just things like that where you have to maybe start off with crafting your language, which is very important.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I'm
learned
saying?
that I couldn't just say, "Hey, you like." I can't. He doesn't receive it. I have to. I know what he likes, and he likes to be affirmed. And so you do a really good job of making sure things are good around here. However, I noticed you keep leaving the back door unlocked when you let the dog.
I'm like, dang, she got me. That's a good leeway though, because sometimes your guard is up when you tell somebody, yo, why don't you pick your underwear off the ground? Or why are you always leaving the floss sticks on the couch? You know what I'm saying? Little things like that. Like
that was the first one.
I mean, I'm just giving examples.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just giving examples. I'm not saying it's specific to anybody, but it's all about how you lead with it. And language is so important. And I think that's the part that's very difficult, because after a while we get tired, or our ego again comes in and says, yo, I'm tired of always having to figure out how to say it or deliver it, but it's so important.
It is.
You know what I mean? Language is so important. Language is a love language.
Well, that's literally what communication is. People forget that aspect is you want the person to receive what you're saying. You're not just communicating just to say it.
Yeah.
That's not what communication
we
is
want
about.
to see some results.
Yeah,
from
you
what
want
I'm
the
saying.
person to hear it. Exactly. And that's beautiful, because we always talk about tailoring it in a way that opens the gate so the person can then receive what you're actually trying to say, and you get what you want out of the whole thing. Because ultimately, when you're communicating, there is something that you want as a result. And if you're not doing it in a way that's going to get you that result, then you're both going to be upset. So you might as well learn to do it in a way that's going to make the other person happy to receive it, and then you happy in the end, because you get the result you're looking for.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's beautiful, guys.
So next question. So I want to ask this one. So how has your relationship grown and evolved since you've gotten married? And then also, what are some key turning points in that journey?
That's a deep one.
That is a deep one. Like,
Yeah, I would say our marriage has grown, I would say, tremendously.
facts.
From the standpoint that, like, so I never thought about being married. That was never something I wasn't, when people say, oh, every girl, no, like, that was not on my.
Did you have both your parents?
No, and I didn't. Okay. And I was going to say, and that, that can be contributed to, like, my dad lived in Connecticut. I lived with my mom. She was a single mom, 5 kids. I'm the middle child. I really was just living life. I was dating. And then when I met him, I wasn't dating at all. And so I really went into the relationship just like, marriage wasn't like, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, oh, we'll see if I like this guy longer than, the last one. There was nothing there. I liked you, but I wasn't like, oh, this is the one. Like, no, it wasn't.
Right.
No expectations.
I had no expectations,
Yeah.
and I think that benefited me.
Yeah.
And I think, to some single women out there, it's okay to not have initial, like, from the first day you meet him, he's not your husband. Some people get, it happens, but for me that wasn't the case. And so upon like meeting him and his family and just seeing how, like, his parents been married 40 years. Wow. They're on vacation right now, 40 years celebrating. And so them, like, seeing that example, it influenced our relationship, in my opinion, at least for me, because I didn't see that. So it had a heavy influence on what marriage could be like.
A man who finds a wife is favored,
and a virtuous woman prepares.
With in-depth instruction and personalized coaching.
Cultivate the skills to navigate a marriage for a lifetime. Wifeconomics.com.
Are you marriage fit?
Seeing what, his parents didn't like argue in front of us or anything, but I do, like, his mom share, like, we had, like, this wasn't some 40-year fairy tale. This is like 40 years of changing jobs, moving different cities, different countries, like, really going through things. And I'm like, okay, like, we're gonna have some stuff that's gonna happen. Even something as simple as buying a house, the first house we bought. Yo. He didn't want to do that. And that was something that we had to work together to overcome to get him on the same page. And even moving out of that house, that was a whole nother thing. He didn't want to do that either. And so I definitely think that played a huge part. And I would say having a kid. And then the biggest experience, I think, is when you go through loss. when you go through loss and you're in a relationship, we're married. We were 16 weeks pregnant, and now you're not pregnant. You're like, everyone's like, "Where's the baby?" You're like, "Oh, there is no baby." I'm not in the share right now. And so I remember like grief, like learning what grief even like looked like, and then for him, how do you show up when you're grieving too, but then she's grieving in a completely different way, and then me having to give him that respect, like, oh, he is grieving, but I was like, he doesn't get it because like I feel life. He's just watching, but no, he was a part of this too, So I think that what was it? Suffering. I think we just heard about that this morning in church. They were like, "You're going to suffer," and I was like, "No, that's true." Because suffering really can show you, one, who is there to support you. Who is this person that that you're married to? Are they a quitter? Are they the person that's going to help you get through it? Do they want to help you get through it? And are they even going to ask the questions on how I can help? Or are they the person that's just going to stand by and say, well, this is something she's going through, and, she'll come around whenever. Yeah. And with him showing up, and, he made mistakes, but so did I. But I definitely think trials and tribulations really got us to the point where we're even able to celebrate 10 years. Because if we hadn't gone through anything and everything was just, how... I don't even know if we'd be able to handle tough times if we never had them.
Facts.
Yeah.
I love that. To kind of echo what you're saying, I'm going back to the refinement portion, because during all these experiences that we've had, it really channeled the inner I would say father energy, husband energy, true, like, this might sound corny, but the divine masculine, to also know how to be mindful when someone is going through loss or trial or tribulation, and just understanding certain cues and things like that. It's helped me to have a bit more faith and understand what it's like to kind of lean into discomfort and just know, like, really trust God. There was something you were talking about. I remember when we got kind of evicted because they said we made too much money. And yeah, I was like, man, we should just get another apartment. But we ended up getting our house. But then when we were talking about selling the next one, and I was just like, I don't know if we should do it now, and I felt like I always saw you as, and I say this all the time, like, I'm going up the escalator, right? And, I'm not really moving. And I'm like, yeah, this is a good pace. I'm going up this escalator. Yeah. This is great. And then I got somebody next to me or beside me, and they're pushing me. And I'm like, yo, no, I don't want to, I'm not ready to go up yet. She's like, come on. And I'm like, no, I don't want to, like, we're going at a good pace. And then finally, like, I'm at the top, and I'm like, oh, it's not so bad up here. You know what I'm saying? But to be able to kind of like trust that process, trust your partner, and like lean into God's will, man, because I feel like it was divine that like we were in that space where we met, and the words came to me to speak to you and things like that. So it is definitely given me a lot, I could say, as a man, to say the least.
That's beautiful. And like you said, it gives you something to celebrate in the end,
Mm-hmm.
after you've gotten through all this. And if anything, it brings you closer because you're like, you have all these things that you've gone through together.
Yes.
And that brings you closer because you're like, you can always think back on, thank you for being there for me. Thank you for understanding and working during that time. And that really strengthens the bond.
Definitely.
And hopefully it shows that you got a winner on you, not somebody that's going to quit on you.
Yeah.
Because some people go through those tough times and the person quits and they're just like, wow, you're not who I thought I was.
Absolutely.
So it provides more validation. Like,
Yes.
wow, you're really who you say you are. You show up for me, and thank you.
Yeah.
I like how I asked you about your background, where
Yes.
you're raised by both parents, and just the common theme that me and my wife both see with the people that we've interviewed or things that we've talked about with other people is that we both come from a single parent household.
Yeah.
And so Jamar's family, his parents, you saw that and saw that example.
Yes.
And that's very powerful to me because a lot of women don't see that.
Right.
That healthy example. And they come from that place of, love is just a chance thing or something that they don't even have any intentions on at all. Right. And that's kind of the theme that we see with single folks in this time and age of not being intentional about marriage at all.
Yeah.
But just seeing that example is something that is so great to society, I believe today, for those people who don't believe in love or don't think that it will ever happen to them. So I think that that's very powerful, having that example of marriage and how that message, it is something that we do need to see more of today.
No, I agree. I agree
as opposed,
wholeheartedly.
of the opposite of, divorce or separation,
I love this moment and this project that we're working on because I think the intention behind it is for us to show our testimony that like this can be done. And I mean, I am a product of a dual two parent household. Shout out to my moms and pops out there in Barbados.
Having fun.
But being able to continue the cycle because my father came from a single parent household, and had it not been for him, things could have, there wouldn't have been no longevity in the relationship that my mother and father had. But
And your dad's been very transparent about that. Like, he was like, no, not doing this with my, I don't want that. Because I lived it,
Right.
don't want to do it.
Yep.
And so I think him, one, being transparent about it and being intentional. He was intentional. Like, just because I grew up in it doesn't mean that this has to be my life.
that's right.
And I think, that his dad and I have a few things in common. And so when he shared that with me, I was just like, wow, like, oh, so you were like, this, I have a way that my life is going to be. And so, that it was never, and he would never once thought about not being with his mother. It was never something that crossed his mind. Yeah. And they got married when they were 19? 19.
That was crazy.
At 19, he knew I'm going to be like, that's a very mature
They knew what they wanted.
mindset. And
they knew what they didn't want too.
They did, yeah. And that's a good one. Your dad knew what he didn't want. And
Yeah.
Yep. Shout outs to Zach Morset Media.
Yeah, we always talk about.
because he's also he was married at 19, still married.
Wow.
That's what's up.
Congratulations.
And we talk about that, like the thing of when you're younger and you're married, and then how you're actually growing. You don't know what you're getting into per se because you're young, but you actually then learn with your spouse how to make it work and what you're supposed to do and how to, move and maneuver and pivot through life together. And that, in all honesty, I think that's the way it's supposed to go. It's beautiful that way because you're growing. You already know I'm going to grow with this person and I'm going to keep growing with this person. It's not I'm just going to up and quit. I'm going to up and leave.
Right.
Or worse off, you've been, already set in your ways and you're refusing to change because you've already been this way for so long. And then when you get with somebody, you're just like, oh, I ain't doing it that way. You're not open to that change. But when you're young, you're more malleable. You're more open to seeing how I can make things work and do it. So I think that is a beautiful thing. And what a great example to have in your life that is seriously missing. And really, we always talk about how, single parenthood and how it does impact the mindset of the children growing up. And then when you're now an adult, things you look forward to, things you don't look forward to. Me, I was growing up single parent, but from the beginning, I was like, I'm not, I'm going to have a 2-parent household. Like, I went out looking for my husband.
I was not having no kids.
Yeah. It's you really do that.
My mind was like, I don't want any kids. I wasn't even thinking about the husband. I was like, I'm just not going to have kids. Because I didn't even think, oh, you could have kids if you get married.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm just not doing that.
But I think you not having the expectation actually really left it open for a blank slate for then God to come in and write that story
I
for
agree.
you.
Absolutely.
And then you see it and you're just like, oh yeah, I like
I was
this.
like, oh, okay, he's not too bad. And then because I met your mom, and I met his mom, I didn't know that was his mom, and, so that was another story. But I was like, oh, this lady, she's nice. Like I like her, and I'm like, oh, that's his mom. I was like, okay, that's weird, but all right.
Yeah. It opens you up. It allows you to, be open to the possibility of things versus if you kind of grow up and you are hard on it and you're just like, oh no, I'm not. Or even worse, I think what's even worse is being fed a whole bunch of fear-based stories that then you go into the dating world and you're so fearful. You're thinking, oh, this man is just going to beat me or he going to do this or he going to do that because of what you've heard. Yeah, not realizing that that's not every relationship. Absolutely. And in fact, those are the more extremes that people like to highlight because they're so extreme. But there is a good middle ground here of where people are not like that and they are sane and loving and all of that.
And they're willing to talk about the things that they experienced that weren't so great. I think it's two ways. You see the extreme or you see the everything is great. We've never had an issue. And it's like, never. The other extreme. Never, nothing ever happened. And then once you realize like more about like your grandparents' story, because your grandparents were married for a very long time, but then also learning that it wasn't some, beautiful fairy tale. There were trials and there were tribulations. And it's like, okay, this is real life. People actually get married and they have issues and they have disagreements and they go through times that are very testing of the marriage. And I think when things are more realistic, I feel like we're able to actually get through them versus having these false expectations that things are either going to be really bad or really good. That they're like you said, there is a middle ground. So,
so true.
So next question. So how do you individually foster personal growth within the context of your marriage? So, there's this sometimes preconceived notion that you basically have to be who your spouse expect for you to be or in that aspect. And Jamar, you kind of mentioned it about being you in your relationship. So
balance those individual needs and desires.
Right. So how do you all basically identify your individual selves in this relationship? Because some people don't think that you can be independently yourself within a marriage.
To become one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You really have to remind yourself that, before we came together, we were individuals. I was Jamar and I enjoyed doing the things that I enjoyed doing, whether it was skateboarding, listening to music, spending time with friends, fishing. Like now, like it's been about maybe 4 years now where I've, picked up a new hobby, new skill, doing Muay Thai, like a little bit of like martial arts and a little bit of jujitsu and doing that with my son and just being able to kind of like look at my toolbox, right? And either acquire new tools or sharpen those tools. You know what I mean? Taking time for myself and maybe learning how to be by myself. Playing chess. I've been playing chess now. Just continuing to seek my individuality when I have that chance. And also supporting that for my wife as well, and knowing that she's just not, my wife. She's Kiki and she enjoys reading her books. She enjoys spending time with her friends. She enjoys doing the things that she enjoys doing, whether it's going on a walk or, doing the Peloton thing. Can we shout out Peloton?
Yeah, we can. Peloton. Yes, I spend lots of time on my Peloton or the platform in general. And I think what we do is communication, like, if I'm, he does his Muay Thai, he has the days, every Sunday, we sit down, we talk about what's going on for the week. That's the time to talk about the things that you're doing as an individual, whether that's me, I have one of my friends, we get together once a month. She's married as well. That's what we do. Her husband knows, I'm meeting up with Kiki. Don't try to say you're not coming home, you're gonna be late. That's, just communication. But also, being intentional about it. I have always loved to read. And he knows that. So if he sees me on the couch with my book, don't come in here and cut the TV on. Like, and he knows he'll be like, I'm going to go somewhere else. Because that's something that I enjoy doing. Just like if he enjoys when he goes fishing, he goes to the lake. Okay, go, have a good time. And I'm not mad he's gone. I'm not, he's doing something without me. That is his hobby. That's what brings him joy. If it was something that we enjoy doing together, then we would do it. But he's an individual. I'm an individual. We're raising our son to be an individual. We don't need to be a part of everything all day long. And I think... really, that time apart makes things even better. When he comes back and he's caught his fish and he's sending me pictures, now we're having conversation. Or, if I'm like, I finally hit a new zone on the Peloton, he's like, I'm like showing him my stats. Like it's something for us to share. However, also giving each other the space to do it solo. And then if I find that he enjoys it, Jamar does do the Peloton. He doesn't actually use the bike. He found that he really liked their yoga and their meditation classes. Yeah. So I was like, I'll make you an account. And that's something that he does now. And, for me, they started doing Muay Thai. He got me doing Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And then we're doing it together. He's my coach, so I don't go to the facility because it stinks. It smells like feet. And I was like,
it does. It does smell like body in there. For sure.
So he'll like whatever he learns that week, he'll bring it home, and then he'll do it with me. We have a day that we'll do it together. And not only does that, and I tell him all the time, this is intimate. This is what intimacy isn't just sex. Yeah. Intimacy is, we're gonna work out together. I know you love your Peloton, but I think you'd be really great at this. Oh, wow, I found out that I liked it. Yep. Okay, now this is something we do together. That's time spent. And our individual hobbies have allowed us to also come together and share them with one another. And although I don't want to go fishing, if you were like, there's a certain way I like to go fishing. So if he's like, hey, I'm getting a boat. I was like, but I don't want to go to the lake and stand around. But that's okay because that's his thing. I don't have to love everything that he does. The same way I don't expect him to read every book that I've read. It's what I like nonfiction. He does not. And that's okay. I'm not going to be like, hey, you need to read this book because I like it. No, that's my thing and he has his thing.
Right. That's beautiful, guys.
Also, speaking on intimacy, that's very important when it comes to marriage, keeping intimacy alive, trying new things, and that aspect. So how do you keep the spark alive in your relationship? So what are some things you do regularly to stay connected?
Day dates.
Day dates.
We do day dates where I will not work and he'll either be off and Jackson has to go to school. And we're like, yes, we're going on a date.
That's right.
Because maybe we, like right now with his parents being on vacation, we don't have a babysitter. So, hey, tomorrow's President's Day. Or not, I wouldn't use that as a good example because he'll be home. But a day where he has to go to school.
I was like, oh, we do something?
No. No, we don't have any plans. But yeah, a day where he would have to go to school and we're both off. We're like, yes, we're going to go out to lunch. Or we went to Hot Pot because I was like, I really want to try it. But I was like, we don't want to take him because he's just going to be like, I don't like this. This isn't, this is too advanced for my palate. So let's just go together. And we went for lunch. On a day, and it was great. Yeah. We had a great time. And I say I feel like we do day days almost probably once a month.
Yeah, we definitely work to be intentional about doing the day dates and spending time, away from our child. But
yes.
Again, the communication aspect of things. Like recently, we had took a moment to kind of define our values.
Yes.
Right. What are the things that are important to you internally, and here are the things that are important to me, and then in conversation we were like, oh yeah, we definitely value these things together, what I mean?
Yeah, we realized our top threes were the same, and we're like, oh, look at that, we things that are important to us. So how can we incorporate these values into our lives. And so whether that's health, so working out together, which is intimate, and our son is not a part of that. Like he doesn't come in. He works out. He does it. He has his own schedule. And we do things with him. We're not those people who are like, oh, he's leaving one day, we don't include him in. He's included a lot. And I would say your parents played a big role in that. When he was born, they said once a month, like, let him come over here.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay. And I remember he was a newborn, and we dropped him off, and we went out, and your cousin came into town.
Yeah.
We were able to have dinner, and that, like, doing that so early when he was born, and we've been doing it consistently to the point, he's 11, but he still, like, he was just over there a couple weeks ago. He was like, oh, I have to go see them. I haven't been in a couple weeks. And I'm like, yeah, because now it's a routine.
Yeah.
So once a month, he's with his grandparents. We're going to do, we'll figure out whether it's going to a show, whether it's us just staying home and, he's just not there. But I will say your parents have played a huge role in just giving us, like, you automatically have a date night once a month.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that has helped tremendously from the start of our relationship.
I'll say another thing is faith, right? Like making sure that we're keeping God in our relationship, whether we are just even praying together, even
Yes.
at night now.
That was our son's idea,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
He
son's
he
idea.
stayed with a friend. We had to go to a funeral, and he stayed with a friend. And then when he came home, he was like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what's going on? He was like, it's nothing bad. And I was like, okay. And he was like, they do this thing where they all meet in the loft before bed, and they all share what they're grateful for, and then they pray. And he was like, I want to do that. And I was like, okay, well, we can start tonight. And so we have literally been doing it consistently. We have like a timer on our phone to remind us, like, especially when your life gets going and you're super busy. This is his project, fully support him in it. At the same time, it's to the point now that we're like, oh, it's time to pray. Like, it's a part of our life now. And, that's all, that's intimacy as well. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
I'll also say, you know what? To me, this is intimacy. Like, as I get to observe and see the situation and kind of look around in this level that we're in, and, just hearing you just testify and talk about it is like, wow.
You like that?
Yeah, I do. I love that. I love that. I love that. It looks good on you. You know what I'm saying?
That's so cute. I love it. I love this too.
You know?
This is why we do this. And I'm so glad this is recorded.
Yes.
Because this is important. This is a beautiful moment. And you know what? I feel God all in here, all through this.
Sure.
And that's what makes it even more beautiful, I think, because I think that this was what God intended. When he said it was not good for a man to be alone.
No.
This is what he meant. And to see this and witness it, and I really hope the audience can even feel this too, because that is the beauty and love and ultimately the miracle and what God wanted and to have facilitated when he created the institution of marriage. So thank you all. This is a really beautiful thing. I do want to end with the last question.
Well, I got one I want to.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, what advice would you give to someone considering getting married?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Man, there's so much I could say. It's not going to be all cupcakes and rainbows.
Our son says that.
You have to understand that being married, being in relationship does take work. It takes sacrifice. It takes you learning how to be vulnerable. There's some things that you're going to have to do better. You're going to have to be able to accept correction. You're going to have to learn how to deliver things a certain way. It may take a toll on your patience and your pride. But you got to remember your why and why you decided to be with that person. Try to be as intentional as much as possible,
Yeah. And I would jump in and say, leave and cleave. And when I don't mean just leave your parents. I mean, like, your old mindset. You have to be willing to change. People have this, like the person you marry, yes, like that's the person. However, like you say, refinement will come along. Experiences will change you. and you have to be willing to let go of old habits. You may have to let go of some friends because everybody is not happy for you.
Yeah.
You may have to set boundaries with your parents. You may have to set boundaries with your friends who are supportive of you. You're going to have to be like, when they say two become one, I didn't really think about it in a way where it was like, I'm gonna just be one with this person. It's like, no, two people are gonna become one in the sense that you're going to share the same values. The same things are going to be important to you, and you're going to prioritize the same things. And when that happens, your friends are not going to be number one anymore. They're going to fall to the, not necessarily the bottom, but they're not going to be at the top of what's most important.
Can't be.
Because, your partner's filling one of those spaces. Faith, if that's important to you, that's filling one of those spaces. Family. And I think that sometimes we want to have that, but we also still want to like go out every Saturday and Sunday. And it's like, okay, but how are you going to balance this life that you're supposed to be creating with the old you?
Yeah.
You're going to have to leave some of those traits behind, and that's okay.
Yep.
But you have to be okay with it. And if you're not okay with it, then I would say maybe you need to continue to explore whether it's therapy, whether that's couples therapy, things like that. You have to do that together to figure out if now is going to be the right time.
Yeah, that's great. Your question actually pivots right on to the one I wanted to ask about your younger self.
Yeah. So you want to ask that question?
No, you
Okay, all right. So if you could give your younger self any advice about marriage, what would it be?
That's a good one.
Well, I would say younger self, let go of expectation. Learn how to just go with the flow. And I think that also releases disappointment too when you have less expectation. I'm not saying lower your expectation in people, but let go of it.
Yeah.
And learn about acceptance. Things are going to go awry. And I've heard the saying, like, there's always turbulence on your way up. So if you hold on to that, I think you will be okay. Pray is a big thing, man. I've recently like learned, I don't want to say learn, but like I pray a certain way, and when I pray, I legit talk to God and I let him know how I'm feeling emotionally, spiritually, what I'm battling with. And when you take that time to bring God in, God comes in a way where it can be unexpected, or it's so like weird. I don't want to say like mystical, but like you might get something in a dream. You might get something where you're just sitting down and you're just chilling and something can remind you, or if you're just sitting in that peace, you can hear something. So learn how to connect with the Creator.
Yeah. And to my younger self, I would say, just let somebody love you, girl. You don't have to do it all. You are like you said, I'm strong, I'm independent. You don't have to be. You can accept help. I think about this term now. A lot of people are saying like, I'm in my soft girl era. And I'm like, yeah, you're only in it because you felt like you had to be hard. So soften up, ease up, let someone love you. Let the person who, like, not just anybody.
Right.
Let the right person love you.
Right.
And it's okay to let your guard down.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yep.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This I wish it was another hour that we could
Wow.
go by.
That was an hour?
Yeah. But that was everything that I was hoping this moment would be.
Yep.
Thank you for this wonderful information as far as marriage today and this modern world.
Yes.
So with that being said,
Let us know in the comments.
Yep.
You gotta always remember the comments. We want some engagement, our positive stuff. We always try to get the engagement so it gets out to more people, because this message is really important. And ultimately, this is what we're trying to do here, is help build more families, build more communities, and ultimately create a better, loving environment for all of us.
yeah.
Truly.
So like, share, and subscribe. Blueprint Family Jewels. Thank you, Blueprint Family, for coming out, and see you all later. Peace.
Yes. Thank you.